Okay. While thinking of what story to tell tonight, I decided to keep it simple, keep something I could remember well, and go back to the beginning. My very first story that I can ever remember telling, and I've certainly told it many times over the years. Besides being easy to remember, I realized it contains most of the elements from all of my better stories, usually starting out with some pretty serious shenanigans, leading to getting in some hair-raising trouble with some type of authority, followed by me trying to pull a rabbit out of my ass and think of some absurd way to get myself out of this jam. And lastly, if all goes well, usually but not always, getting away scot-free. So I figure let's give it a whirl. Before I start, can I just ask quickly, ask everyone to think of, if you can, a 7-year-old, some 7-year-old in your life, someone you've known between first and second grade, that basic age, just what they're like. And as you think of this, as I tell my story for the next few minutes, just keep in mind, try to picture to yourself this 7-year-old that you know doing what I did on this summer night in 1975 when I was 7. The evening started sometime after dinner and just about dark. Must have been 8 or 8:30, because it needs to be dark if you're going to go outside and do what most 7-year-olds do on a summer night, which is raise hell. I'd recently been taught the art of raising hell by my older friends Billy Osgood and Billy West, who I used to hang out with. These guys were a couple grades ahead of me, going into 4th grade at this point as I was going into 2nd, and they had recently taught me the finer arts of things like egging houses, throwing snowballs at cars. We used to climb on people's roofs in the middle of the day and run around the house and jump off and take off before you got caught, that kind of thing. Harmless fun. And of course, one of the best was ringing doorbells. So my buddies, older buddies, weren't around this night, but I wanted to go out and raise some hell. So I called up my friend across the street, David McCarthy, who was also my same age, 7-year-old heading into 2nd grade. I said, hey, let's go out and raise some hell. I'll show you how it's done. So we head up my street, 3 houses up. There's a small house with a huge garden outside, and 2 old people lived in it. Apparently, I had always heard that he grew food for the church. So it seemed like the perfect victim. He was old, and he wasn't going to be able to chase me if I got in trouble. I was pretty confident I could outrun him, even at 7 years old. Right across from his house was this huge field with trees and bushes. It was land my family owned that we could run across and hide in. When we were out raising hell in general, that was always the place to go. If you're getting chased, if you want to get away from the authorities, you run into the Dole Company field and you're scot-free. So we headed up and across from his house, and we got in the bushes. You can get very close to the road and hide down in the bushes and see his house. And I was like, okay, here we go. We're going to go do our first doorbell ringing. And we go across the street, and just as I get to his yard, I notice his living room window I have to go by his living room window before I get to his porch. And it looks like they're sitting in their living room, having their evening drinks or whatever, watching TV. And I chickened out. I was like, that's going up his stairs. That's a little too much. I've never done this myself. I'm always following the older kids. So I decided to pick up a stick off the ground. And just as we get to the edge of the window, I reach up and tap, 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 reach on the window, drop the stick and run across the street. We hide in the bushes and we watch and we wait. The light comes on. We're all excited. The old man steps out on the porch and looks around at his garden, takes a look, and we're just so excited. This is amazing. This is exactly what's supposed to happen. And he goes back inside. Just the rush is incredible. There's blood's coursing through me. I'm all excited, and we wait a couple minutes, and I'm like, we got to do it again. This is awesome. Let's do it again. He's up for it, my buddy David, so we go back across the street. I pick up the stick, tap, 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 run across the street and hide in the bushes. And sure enough, the light comes on again, and the old man comes out again. And this is just amazing. We did it. I'm so fired up. This is incredible. And the old guy goes back into the house. I wait a minute. I was like, I just can't take it. I have to do it again. At this point, David, he's a little worried. He's like, this seems scary. We can't do this. And he won't do it. I'm like, All right, you stay hidden in the bushes. I'll go do it. So I go across the street and I pick up my stick and I reach up to the window and boom! I feel two hands grab me, strong hands, lift me up off the ground, set me down, turn me around, and there's a man standing in front of me. Turns out it's this 30-year-old son that lives next door to the old people whose windows I've been banging on. Oops! What are you doing? He asked me. I'm banging on your parents' window with a stick. I'm sorry. What's your name? So there's some lessons I've learned over the years, and this would have been the first time I learned this lesson, made it up on the fly, but it's a pretty obvious one. If you're in a jam and you have to lie, try to make it real. Try not to make up anything completely fake that you're going to forget about later and get caught lying. But of course I have to lie. So, my name is Billy West. Okay, that's fine. Billy West, I already mentioned, was my older friend who taught me how to raise hell, who had now moved away to Pennsylvania. So I had a real name so that I wouldn't forget what fake name I'd given him, and I could talk my way out of this. We'll be fine. Who's your little friend? I know you have a friend with you. Oh, that's my brother Dickie. Dickie West also just moved away to Pennsylvania. Well, let's go get him. Hey, Dickie, come on out. We got caught. Come out of the bushes. Dickie comes walking over, and the guy's standing here. So, where do you guys live? 28 Grant Street, of course. The house where Billy and Dickie West lived. House I've spent the night in, spent much of my childhood at hanging out. Get in the car. So just picture you're a little 7-year-old kid. Imagine these days, 30-year-old man just throwing a couple of 7-year-olds in the car. I'm going to take you home. So we drive down Fountain Street, past my house, and I'm just thinking, stay cool. Here's another one of the lessons of when you're in a jam like this, always stay cool. We go by my house, take a left, drive down 3 blocks to the big brown house on 28 Grant Street, and he pulls up, get out of the car. We walk up the steps, and he rings the doorbell, and this woman opens the door, Mrs. Long, who still lives there to this day and still remembers this story, oddly enough. She opens the door, and the guy says, I caught your kids banging on my parents' window up the street. Mrs. Long says, I've never seen these kids in my life. And the guy's like, what do you mean? She's like, I don't know who these kids are. Okay, you got to think fast. Rule number 3 when you're in a jam, think fast and be creative. Mom, what do you mean? You don't know me. Mom. She's looking at me like I'm crazy for good reason. Just get in the house. She opens the door. Come in the house. So we go into the kitchen. There's a couple kids sitting at the table, including Jack Long, who's a year behind me. I've known him now for 30 years since then, 40 years since then. Almost 50 years since then, now that I think about it. And I'm standing in this kitchen, a kitchen I'm very familiar with because my friend just moved out of here a month ago, with my friend David and this man I don't know and a woman whose house it is. And they're like, so what's going on here? Who are you? I don't know these kids. And I'm like, I can do this. I can convince this lady to lie to this guy, pretend I'm her kids, get rid of him, and then let me go walk home down the street so I can get away scot-free, because that's how I roll. But she's like, I don't know these people. So I had to pour it on. I was like, Mom, I'm so sorry. I mean, all I did was bang on a window and you're not going to admit I'm your kid? Really? Mom? And I'm still 100% confident. I got this. And just then, my friend David breaks down and starts crying like a baby. And I'm just like, oh my God, dude, we had him. I was this close. I knew. Out of my mind. So frustrated. All you had to do was keep your cool and we could have had it. But no, he's crying. Our cover's blown. All right. I give up. I'm Alex Pozzy. I live down the street. We drove by my house on the way here. So they open up the door and we start walking down the stairs. And I'm now thinking about heading home. How do I get out of this one? I managed to get out of that lady's house. I'm not yet in trouble. We start driving to my house. And as I mentioned, one of the other elements that is a part of most of my stories, we'll get to the ones, if you ever have me back, that don't turn out quite so well. But I pull up to the house, all the lights are off, my parents' car isn't there, nobody's home. Because this is 1975, and who needs to have somebody home when your 7-year-old is out raising hell? I got away scot-free. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed it, and hope to come back and do it again sometime. Cheers.